Thank you for joining us this evening. Today, we will be sharing more information about the online Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering here at Purdue University. And we will learn about the program alongside our great student panel that we do have with us today. During today's panel, we will be covering introductions on everyone that will be with us here on this webinar. We will also be covering information about the online Masters of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering. We will then go into the questions for our student panel, and we will get to hear from different viewpoints on the program. And we will finish off going over admission next steps and finally opening up the room for any questions. Throughout this presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature. We will address all of those at the end of the conversation, but we do invite you to put those questions in so that you don't forget as we move along. My name is Eve, and I'm an enrollment counselor here at Purdue University. My email is vega83@purdue.edu. I do invite you to take a picture of that. If you have any questions, I am always happy to help. And with me, we do have Lynn Hedgewold. She is the program manager for the Elmer School of Electrical and Computer Engineering here at Purdue. And her email is also on there. If you have any questions, you could reach out to any of us. Again, this is a very important slide. We do invite you to take a picture of it to use for future use. All right, so we will start off with sharing a little bit more information about Purdue University's online MSECE.
Yes, and thank you, Eve. So I'd like to start out the program by just covering some of the unique features of our program. Because you're here tonight, I assume you've done some research on our program and you know some of the basics, but some of the things that make our program unique is even though this program is fully online, you are earning the same degree as our on-campus students. Not only that, you're taking the same courses with the same faculty. So there is it's not an easier degree by any means. It is the diploma doesn't say anything about online. The transcript doesn't say anything about online. It is exactly the same degree as our residential students are earning. The program is fully online, and you can complete the coursework on your schedule. Within reason. This is not a self-paced program. We are on a semester system at Purdue, and our courses run typically for 16 weeks. So, each week you'll have lectures you need to watch, homework, projects, quizzes, exams, and our faculty are pretty good about providing that information ahead of time so that you can plan accordingly, because the vast majority of the students in this program are working professionals. And those working students generally take 1 3-credit course per semester. We do have some students who are pursuing the degree full-time, so a full-time load would be like 3 courses. Most of our students, those who are working full-time, are taking about 3 to 4 years to complete the degree. So another thing I'd like to point out is that our program is very flexible. There are some online engineering programs out there that are very prescribed, where everybody comes in and they take this class and then they take this class and so on. We do have some curriculum requirements, which you can find on our website. But as far as the ECE technical courses that you take, you get to choose those courses. And we have a very large course list for each semester. Additionally, if you're interested in more than one area within ECE, for example, if you're interested in computer engineering, but also VLSI, for example, you can take courses from both of those areas. So we do have a lot of flexibility in the actual ECE courses that you take. This is also a reduced priced program. It is 30 credit hours for $28,500 or $950 a credit hour, and you do pay as you go. And also, I forgot to point out, as shown on the slide here on the right side, we are the #1 ranked online master's program in electrical engineering, and we've held that position for a couple of years now. So that's a brief overview of the program.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for sharing that helpful information with us. So now that we know a little bit more about Purdue University's online Masters of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, now is a great time to start learning more about the program from our students' perspectives. So today with us, we do have Deb and Athena. Deb is currently a student with us. He is in his 2nd year, and he is pursuing the circuit design focus area. He is joining us all the way from Ireland, where he is working as a digital IC design engineer in analog devices. And then with us, we also have Athena. Athena is also a student under Purdue University's online MSECE program. She is in her third year and is expected to graduate this year, so very exciting news. And her focus area is the microelectronics and advanced semiconductor space. So now that we know our student panelists, let's hear a little bit about them. Student panelists, thank you so much for being here with us today. We want to start off with learning a little bit more about what motivated you to pursue a master's degree in ECE. As you were looking at different options, what were some things that made you pursue Purdue over other programs or other institutions?
Deb, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, sure. No worries. So, basically, firstly, the rate ranking of the program, right? As you can see, it has been ranked number one. And secondly, there is no distinguish, like you get the exact same courses as you do in, if you attend an if you are an on-campus master students, right? So you get the exact same course and you have a large bucket of course from which you can choose. So, and the degree is exactly the same, right? There is nothing distinguishing that. So these all flexibilities were the reasons that I chose an online master's because I was working full time in a company and I'm working full time in a company. So that's something that I really honor and I really value a lot. Yeah.
So Deb, let me ask you a quick follow-up question before Athena weighs in. As far as your reason for getting an advanced degree, is it you want to gain more technical knowledge, or do you hope to move up in your company in a certain manner, or what's your main motivation for pursuing a master's degree?
Right, that's a very good question. So basically, what it helps, it is both actually. So first of all, when you after bachelor's, I joined and Samsung, and then I went to analog devices. But here, when you join a company directly after bachelor's, you have focusing on just a single area. So that doesn't widens your knowledge. That makes you focus on a very small area, and you become a master of it. So when you take a master's degree, that actually helps to broaden your knowledge a lot. And secondly, what it helps is in your promotions and things like that, having a master degree always helps, right? So it's both. Also, if you want to say switch fields, like go to some other area of your
Mhm.
interest, then master's degree can actually open a gateway. So that's another reason that I can think of. Yeah.
Very good, thank you. Athena, do you have anything you want to add here?
Yeah, so I currently work for Applied Materials. I'm a device engineer. I started working for my same team since I graduated in 2020. So I was surrounded by a bunch of PhD students who had just started working and they were a lot more knowledgeable than I was. So I was starting to feel a little bit like, okay, I maybe need to advance my own knowledge a little bit. And the best way for me to do that was to either learn from my coworkers or kind of go at it my own way and get a master's degree. So I ended up looking at different programs, like even around my area. And like the different universities around me and online as well. I ended up choosing Purdue because of the online reason. I personally like juggling my own time when it comes to studying. So even though all the lectures are recorded, I can watch whenever I want, whenever I have time. And then all the work is also online. So again, I feel like there's ample time in between classes or on my weekends where I can ask a question and it still gets answered. Um, and as Deb had mentioned already, it's number one in electrical engineering online. So I thought that it's pretty established. There should be very minimal issues with exam proctoring, anything like that. I've heard some horror stories from other schools that they haven't had enough experience working with online students. So Purdue was well established, and that's one of the main reasons why I chose this program.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. So now that we know a little bit more about some of the reasons behind why you both selected Purdue University, I'm interested to know about your experience currently as students in the program. So that being said, I would love to hear more about what your actual workload week to week looks like. Does that match your expectations that you had prior to coming into the program? And what are some ways that you balance that coursework with other commitments? Both of you have very busy jobs. So how do you find the flexibility of the program as you go through your day-to-day responsibilities?
Athena, you want to go first or yeah?
Yeah, sure. So for each class, I budget maybe about 10 hours per week, on average. That's pretty standard. I did expect that coming into this program. But it is a little harder because I'm no longer a full-time student compared to when I was an undergraduate student. So I had to kind of find a way to figure out how best I work. So I know I don't like studying past like 9 p.m. I can't do that anymore. I'm getting a little older. So I like working on like homework and studying right after I get off of work, for a few hours, as much as I can get done. And then on the weekends, I end up spending a little bit more time. I still have time, free time on my weekends for me to, have fun, go hang out with friends. But as long as I'm able to kind of budget it, daily hours, things like that, I'm able to actually balance my coursework pretty well. And the program is very flexible. Like I mentioned, the lectures are all recorded, and the TAs and the professors are all aware that there are online students. So again, like they are very responsive even on the weekends. They just answer when they have time and have checked their inboxes. So yeah.
You're right. So, yeah, just to add to what Athena said, yeah, it all the same holds for me as well. And one more thing, like all the course, all the project deadlines, all the exams, right? They are actually we are given some time. Like it's never okay. You have to come and give the exam, say within say couple of hours or 3 hours. It's usually a day or 2 days, right? For which the exam remains open and it is done like fully proctored. So the course rigor is there, but at the same time it is flexible. So that really helps because, yeah, you never know your work commitment might come up at any time where you have to go to a certain place or things like that. So that really helps to balance it out. And as Athena pointed out, I usually try to keep budget around 8 to 10 hours a week. So I usually take one full 3 credit course per semester. Or if I take say a 600 level course, I do that. And if I take a 500 level course, I did once for one semester, I did two courses. But yeah, that's how I usually manage. Yeah.
Let me just add a couple things that we sometimes talk about in some of these webinars. We have been really, really fortunate in ACE that our faculty members have really embraced teaching online. That is not always the case. And of course, we have some who don't teach online. We have some faculty members who don't teach online, and maybe some who are somewhat reluctant. But overall, we've had really, really good support for teaching online from our faculty members. We do have a very large faculty group, over 125 faculty members. But they really enjoy having online students in the class because, as I mentioned, most of them are working professionals. So they bring something to the class by being there, whatever they're working on at work and kind of what's going on in the work world. Um, so we're very fortunate with that. I think also I wanted to mention that this is a rigorous program. It is not an easy program by any means. So I think that prospective students do need to really think about whether any type of educational program fits into their life. Everybody has their own challenges with studying and or habits with studying, and I certainly wouldn't discourage you from trying if it's something you want to do, but it does require some discipline and some planning and a lot of discipline, I would think. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll also add a little bit more. The first semester that I started this program was incredibly difficult. Kind of jumping back into studying and getting into the habit of things. So that was a really good advice I took from other students too, where if you're first joining your program, you should start slow. So I ended up taking one math class as like the introductory semester. And that kind of gave me a taste of how much studying I should do, how best to do it. And like Lynn mentioned, the faculty are very nice. A lot of them have office hours multiple times throughout the week that are suitable for different hours. So I've had office hours, during my daytime and during my nighttime, which is pretty late for Eastern time. So very nice, yeah.
Yeah, and just one more thing before we move on, I wanted to mention, Purdue is a major research university, but teaching, and the quality of our teaching within ECE is very important to us. So all of our courses, 99% of our courses are taught by faculty. We do have TAs, of course, who assist with the courses, but the teaching is done by faculty, and the quality of that teaching is very important to me. Or not to me, but to all of us in ECE. When we do have issues, so let's say at the beginning of the semester, the videos aren't great, maybe the sound isn't great, the students can't see what they want. Anytime I get information like that from a student, I go right to our associate head of teaching and learning, and he handles those things immediately. So we are, we take a lot of pride in our program, and we certainly want to provide exceptionally high quality teaching whenever we can.
Great.
Thank you so much for sharing. And that is actually the perfect segue to our next series of questions. Our next series of questions are going to focus around resources and support that our online students currently have. So, Deb and Athena, I am interested in knowing how you find the instructors to be. Are they accessible and responsive? And in addition to those instructors, what other type of academic support do you find valuable within the program? And another really helpful resource that students oftentimes have are those other fellow online students. What does interaction look like with them?
Uh, shall I go ahead or yeah? Okay, so basically, for most of the courses, we use Piazza. Piazza is a group where you discuss all the whatever course-related queries or whatever problems you're facing. You can go and post it out there yourself or anonymously, and they get answered pretty soon. And usually, like, there are two office hours in whatever courses I attend. Like in a week, there are at least two office hours happening. I think one usually is taken by the professor and other one by the TA. So there you can attend, and they usually consider the online students, so keep it at a time where online students can attend it. So you can go there, ask questions, and most of the tools, right? For example, IEEE, ACM, all those journals are open with Purdue account. And additionally, say for I have a focus area of circuit design, so Cadence tool are required, and I do get access to all of them. So yeah, I think yeah, that way it kind of gives access to most of what you need. So that really helps.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm 3 hours behind Eastern time. I'm in Pacific time, so when when I ask a question and it's my nighttime, I do expect it to be like the next day or two, for a response and like on Piazza or on email. And it's actually been pretty nice. Like I haven't waited longer than 3 days for a response, 3 business days. So that's really nice. And as Deb mentioned, the package of softwares that you might be using as a student, like I have MATLAB for free, I think Word and other things like that. So that support's really nice too. Like I don't feel like I have to do my own research and digging into finding what resources I can use for my own classes. And some classes might say that they don't need a coding script from MATLAB, but like if you find it more useful to do on MATLAB or Python, they're pretty lenient with that, and their support for as much as you have questions for. I haven't had any negative experiences with any of the instructors in terms of me asking questions. Like, there's never been a dumb question like on Piazza. They're all very nice. And aside from Piazza, I also have been part of Discord groups for classes. That's also very common. These are usually only student made. So one student will kind of start the Discord and invite a bunch of people, and that's how I've gotten to know my fellow classmates. Is, actually not through Piazza, it's through Discord, where everyone has their own profile. There's like one channel for homework one, for example, and then you kind of end up talking about it. There hasn't been any academic issues on Discord. Everyone that I've talked to on Discord have been very um, understandable of when to speak about the exams and when not to, and what to say and what not to say. So that's been pretty nice too.
Yeah, just one thing I want to add. Both Athena and Deb have talked about tools, and I mentioned the program is $950 a credit hour. You do, for some courses, you will have to purchase textbooks, but not many. All the other tools that you need, Cadence, MATLAB, everything else is provided to you. We use some open source tools. Most of the, or a lot of the courses do not have textbooks, but they have original materials that the faculty member will provide. But as a Purdue student, you do have full access to the Purdue libraries, which has all the journals. And then a lot of the textbooks are available through the Purdue library, so you can get like PDF copies of the textbook. So I guess overall, there are very few additional costs on top of that $950 a credit hour.
Right. In my 3 years of in this program, I haven't paid for a textbook once. They've been all, and all my resources have been available like through Purdue. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I do actually have a question for everyone, and it's kind of a follow-up of a question that I did see in the Q&A feature. Office hours was something that was definitely mentioned as a really helpful resource. What are some examples of reasons why you use these office hours? Do you use them mainly for help from instructors, clarification on assignments, or do you ever use those office hours to establish relationships with your professors?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
oh,
sure.
go ahead, Deb. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually, it's very much encouraged to ask, like, even if you go to for a relationship or you just want to ask, say, some career related questions, right? Like, for example, hey, I work here. What do you think is the next upcoming thing so that I can focus a little bit more on that? That is very much encouraged. And yeah, that's a very good thing yeah, you can get one very good perspective that, hey, this technology is coming up. So maybe you can start learning that. It will help you. So yeah, that is always there. And of course, you can have questions related to course material, assignments, things like that. And that is obviously there.
Yeah, I've used office hours for mainly assignments, any questions I have, especially given the time difference when assignments are assigned. I get a little bit of a delay in my own working schedule as well for me to check out what's assigned and how best to go at it. So there was one time I was just stuck on one problem. I didn't know where else to ask. I could have used Piazza, but even then, I wasn't sure how to ask. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to word a question that I didn't even know how to form yet. So I think office hour is a really good opportunity for students to kind of just start talking, starting a conversation with the instructors or the TAs, depending on who's hosting the office hours. And they'll have a better understanding of what gap of knowledge that you have, and then they can help try to fill in those gaps verbally versus you're just watching a video. So office hours are very useful tools to just having conversations face to face if you're even if your video is off. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really valuable information to know, and really creative ways to use those resources. Well, we are going to finish off with our last series of questions, and our last series of questions is going to summarize your overall experience. We are interested in knowing what elements of this program are factors that you enjoy and that you like. And that being said, as you have explored some years now in the program, what is the piece of advice that you would give to our prospective students that are interested in this program?
I'll go ahead and start. I really liked that this program was actually on a rolling basis for admission. I started in spring instead of fall, and that every single semester there are a majority of classes that I can pick from, and it's not just like one or two classes available during like summer, for example. Like even during summer, there's still at least 10 courses. I think I want to say they're ECE related. And that's very nice since summers are usually not considered a full semester, by undergraduate means for me. Um, I also really like the faculty. I've had very good experiences talking to them, getting to know what they know and how they got to their careers in teaching at Purdue. I The advice I would give to prospective students is to take it slow. If you want to graduate within 3 years, like I did, I took 10 credit hours per year, which meant each semester I needed to take about two courses or one course, depending on the semester. I felt like that was a little faster just because the two courses per semester was a little bit of a kick where I had to stay home a lot more to do more studying. But it's up to the student and how you best study. But you can take it slow. As Lynn mentioned, you can take this program up to 6 years, which is ample time to finish this program.
Yeah, I agree with what Athena said. And yeah, so one more thing which you can write. So say if you have some very emerging area which is coming up, and if you have suggestions, you can go forward and ask them that, okay, this is the course. And if there are some new course which are, for example, I can give one example like hardware for machine learning. I think that was a course which started, I think, last year or last to last year. Now it is offered online as well, right? So I think that's a very, very emerging thing where everyone is wants to know that a little bit better, a little bit more. So yeah, you kind of get what is the up-to-date state of the art things, right? So that's really good. And yeah, one advice would be definitely not to overstretch because as a working professional, right, it so happens that all the deadlines come in together. So yeah, that is something you really don't want to face, right? So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Lynn, as the program manager for this program, you see a lot of applications come through on a daily basis. What is a piece of advice that you have for some of our prospective students?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will say that we do take a holistic look at all elements of the application. Your GPA from your undergrad studies is important. Where you went to school, that's important as well. But we also look at, your letters of recommendation, your work experience, your two written statements, and we look at all of that when we are making a decision. So even though it is a rigorous program and generally our programs are very competitive for admissions, I do encourage students to apply. One of the other things I often do is I pre-screen students' credentials. So if you say, well, my undergraduate GPA wasn't that great, I'm not really sure if I fit the requirements, send me your resume and your transcript, and I am more than happy to take a look at that and make a recommendation to you as to whether or not you should apply. I don't like students applying if I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be admitted. And I've been affiliated with this program long enough to be a pretty good judge of that. So feel free to reach out to me if you're unsure. Regarding things like GPA or even your background, because sometimes we have students from other engineering areas who are interested in our program and interested in making that transition. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult. So I'm more than happy to talk through that as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that helpful information with us. Well, virtual round of applause for our student panelists who provided us with very, very helpful information. We are now going to move forward and talk about next steps if you are interested in applying before we get into your questions that you have been sending us. So if you are interested in applying, we do encourage you to, like Lynn said, reach out to one of us so that we can better discuss your particular case. We also have a very helpful self-assessment guide on our website that we will be sending as a follow-up so that you can better understand where you are against some of our prerequisites. Some of those prerequisites do include completing a high level of math, which means calculus 1 through 3, as well as differential equations and linear algebra. We do ask that you come with a compatible field of engineering as well. Now, when it comes to the application itself, you are going to be submitting a few different materials. One of those are going to be transcripts from all universities attended. If you are applying from an international institution, you may also need to send a copy of your diploma. You will send 3 letters of recommendation. Those letters of recommendation do have to be professional and or academic. You will submit 2 different writing statements. One is an academic statement of purpose. The other is a personal history statement. Those 2 documents should be kept under 2 pages each, ideally. And my best tip is with those 2 statements, there is a lot of overlap in subject matter. So just make sure that you are not duplicating the information on those documents, but more so complementing one another as you are developing those. And then lastly, we will need a resume. Make sure you highlight any relevant information and experience that you do have to this program. If you are an international student, you may need to submit the TOEFL or the IELTS. Again, if you have any questions about if this applies to you, I am happy to answer those questions. As Lynn said, we do perform a holistic application review process, and we do review applications on a rolling admissions basis. So now that we have talked a little bit about next steps, let's talk a little bit about some of those questions that we received in the chat. One of the questions that we did receive is more so in regards to the courses. So Deb and Athena, how do you feel that these courses are? Do you feel like they are in-depth and engaged and cover a wide array of what's relevant in the industry? How do you find these courses?
These courses are very difficult. And they were, well, obviously, this is my first master's program, so I don't have any other graduate level courses to compare it with. But compared to my undergraduate classes, the rigor is definitely there. Like, even though it's master's online, the material that I'm being taught is pretty standard to be taught in master's programs elsewhere, the other ECE programs. And there are things that I'm learning that I had no idea existed. And the depth into each class and each subject is pretty deep. I will say that. And these faculty that are teaching the classes, they're very knowledgeable in this one class that they're teaching, or few classes that they're teaching. So they have incredible, immense knowledge in what they're teaching. And for example, like one lecture can cover an entire chapter from a textbook, which is pretty deep into the material that you're learning.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And on that note, we have a specific question more so about different areas in those courses. Deb and Athena, have any of you taken classes in the machine learning, VLSI design, or embedded
Yeah.
design
Yeah.
space? And if so, what are your thoughts about those courses?
Yes, it's very rigorous, right? So the thing is, this course is, my audio is, you can hear it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's very rigorous. There are projects, right? So you actually end up making something, right, which is and you test it out. So you have all the required simulation softwares, which you do the actual simulation, and this is actually graded, right? So you continuously receive feedbacks if you ask for it, or even there are like midterm review and things like that, like you have in the industry, right? Design reviews, basically, where when you do something, it gets reviewed by other folks, right? So that way the rigor is there. And yes, there are courses. I've taken courses both with regards to machine learning and also VLSI circuit design courses. So there is a wide array of circuit design courses, starting from, say, the algorithm aspect of it, then say digital circuit design, analog circuit design. Now there are circuit design for a specific area, like for machine learning, RF circuit design. So if you want to go in details into a specific region, like I am more interested in digital circuit design and hardware for ML, so I am going in details into that. But I'm pretty sure you will get, you can go to some place where you will get the courses which will interest you, right? So there is a really a wide array of courses available to choose from. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And while we are on that subject of courses, we have another question about class availability. As you are planning out your schedule in advance, have you found reliability with what you see online as far as courses being taught certain semesters or even years? And is that a challenge that you have as you select your courses?
Yes, absolutely. And Lynn is actually very responsive. So if there are questions about specific classes being offered in specific semesters, Lynn is probably the best person to ask. As you know, as a student right now for me, but I haven't had any issues with planning out my 3 years of study that I've have been doing, and there are online examples of class schedules for the entire 3 years if you plan on, say, doing a focus in the what I'm doing, like the microelectronics and semiconductors route. And there's also example schedules for the other concentrations as well. So they've been pretty helpful. The online resources for when classes are offered have been pretty helpful too. You can also find the different syllabi for the different semesters offered. Sometimes it's taught by different professors, but they've been pretty reliable.
Yeah, and I will add that, I mentioned our program is very flexible, which is good, but it does make some of that planning a little more difficult because you have a lot of choices. We do have some basic degree requirements. We have sample plans of study online. We have, as Athena mentioned, we have a lot of the syllabi available. We have a kind of a long-term schedule, and we do see deviations in that from semester to semester. We have new courses that are offered. So students are required to put together a basic plan of study that they intend to follow, but they can change that at any time as we have new courses that come out or maybe their area of interest changes. So, but it does require a little bit of work on the student's part to plan that out, given the flexibility of the program, but everybody figures it out.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Lynn. And another question that we have is more so in the research space. We
Yeah,
have people. Mhm.
take this one. So I see we have a question. The student is asking if they could do a thesis through this program. This program does provide a thesis option for students, although 99% of our students are non-thesis, are just doing a course-only program. So if an online student is interested in doing a thesis, the main thing they have to do is find an ECE faculty member who's willing to work with them. If you can find an ECE faculty member who's willing to work with you on a thesis, you can certainly pursue that option. So generally, the way that works is students take a certain number of courses, but then they also accumulate some credit hours through their research, their thesis research. They do that for a couple semesters, and then they actually write their thesis and have a final exam, a master's final exam before they graduate. So again, I'm happy to talk to anybody who might be interested in that, but it is a possibility, but it can sometimes be challenging to find a faculty member who's willing to take on a remote student.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that, Lynn. It looks like we had two questions about that, and you answered both questions. So thank you so much for doing that. And then the other questions that we do have are more so around the admission space. So Lynn, I will keep the trend going and switch it over to you.
Yeah, we have another one here. I'm almost finished with my master's. Is it hurtful to submit at this time rather than at an earlier time? You can really apply at any time. You do have to have your bachelor's degree completed before you start your master's program at Purdue if you are admitted. But otherwise, if you're in another master's program somewhere else, you can apply at any time. So Isaiah, if that doesn't answer your question, please feel free to email me. We have a question from Connor. He says, is having a BS in mechanical engineering with much EE experience and classwork adequate to apply for this program? And the answer to that is maybe. There are some areas within ECE that correlate well with mechanical engineering, for example, controls and power. If you have a mechanical engineering background though, and you're interested in something like VLSI or computer engineering, it's possible that you may have taken, the necessary undergraduate courses, or maybe you learned some of those skills through work. So I will say that in general, graduate programs in engineering do not teach foundational concepts. On our website, if you go to our master's MS ECE student guide, we have some sample plans of study in each area. So automatic control, computer engineering, VLSI, and so on. And each one of those starts with needed prior knowledge. So it will say, okay, if you want to do VLSI, you need to have taken courses like these as an undergrad. And those are pretty stringent. As I said, the master's courses don't cover that foundational knowledge. So it is important to make sure you have that knowledge. So the other thing that I tell students coming from a different area is to be strategic. You may have to spend a little more time reviewing the course descriptions, looking at the syllabi, perhaps even reaching out to the faculty member and saying, hey, I know this, but I don't really know this. Do you think I can succeed in this course? So it's a little bit of additional planning, but it can be done. So it requires some research and some strategy. It can be done. So again, if any of you, want to talk about that in more detail in regards to your specific background and what area within ECE you might be interested in, feel free to reach out. I see one last question. Are you able to bypass the math requirements if you took similar math classes in your undergrad? The answer there is no. You are required to take 2 graduate level math courses. The only instance where we do waive that is if you have another master's degree and you already completed those graduate level math courses, then we will waive them. But otherwise, you would be required to take two math courses as part of our program. That's all the questions we have.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And once again, thank you so much again to our student panelists for joining us. Your insight has been extremely valuable to all of us, and we're very grateful for your time. As mentioned prior to this presentation, a recording will be sent to everyone that has attended. So if you want to review any of these really great answers that were shared with us tonight, a recording will be sent out to you tomorrow. So thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope you all have a great evening.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks a lot. Bye.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.